with him. We need to go, now. Who are you?
Alright, look, there is absolutely no way I can review this game without getting into spoilers. The story is simply too important. So before we start, I'm just going to tell you that this is not just the game of the year, it's the game of the decade. It's not close. It is without equal. And if you have the time to sink into an 80 or 100 hour RPG, then go play this one without hearing any more about it. It will be one of, if not the, most rewarding period of time you will spend with a game. If you stay here, I'm going to talk about some of the game mechanics first, and then I'll get into the story, and I will spoil it, so you have been sufficiently warned. It's a turn-based JRPG. I feel like in all the attention this game's had this year, it's easy to overlook the simple facts. It's a very traditional turn-based Japanese RPG. In some ways it's even unremarkable, but that's almost what makes Expedition 33 so remarkable. Too many people have been trying to reinvent the wheel, iterating and iterating on game mechanics and worlds, overcomplicating and inflating things to create an illusion of value at the expense of accessibility and legibility. That said, the setting and characters immediately make Expedition 33 stand out as something special right from the first few moments. The fictional Paris, Lumiere, City of Lights, you see, very clever, where you begin, is so instantly compelling with its impossible architecture and of course the painterly aesthetic. The otherworldly background starts telling the story straight away. What happened here? What are these people doing? Why is everyone so sad? The opening to this game is completely infused with grief, which feels a bit much at the time. You find yourself thinking, this is a bit of a heavy start for a fun RPG. And you're correct. But by the time you finish it, you understand entirely why the journey has to begin with that grief. Why it's baked into the world and all its people.
There you are. You can't hide from us, you know. Like I said, mourning's best done with friends.
Lucien,
What? It is. Grieving alone's the worst.
where's mine?
Oh, don't worry about these two clowns and their accents. You won't have to spend too much time with them.
Fuck! Run! Come on! Move! Fucking snap out!
See, there we go, all nice and sorted. All that dialect coaching at stage school wasted. Thank fuck. The basic setup is that an evil force known only as the Paintress has taken over the land, corrupted it with all kinds of nasty boys, and forced people to die once they reach a certain age, in this case 33, Logan's Run style, simply by being Thanos snapped away. This age drops by a year each year, so eventually everyone will die. The people of Lumiere decide this is not acceptable, so they form expeditions of people in their final year to go and defeat the Paintress, none of which have succeeded, and now it's your turn. That's when the meat of the RPG kicks in, and it's immensely enjoyable. You've got all your gorgeous environments to wander through, from the peaceful sunny meadows of the gentle introduction, through to the dark, fiery, corrupted visions of later in the journey as you become more adept at all the killing. The visuals of this game are so stunning, it's difficult to believe it was made by a relatively tiny team of former Ubisoft employees at an independent production house. The combat is the perfect balance of accessible and endlessly customizable. Obviously you have attacks and abilities just like usual, but they're supplemented by the Picto and Lumina system. Each character has 3 slots for Pictos, which are artifacts that provide buffs, maybe a stronger first attack, better fire resistance or whatever. Once you use that Picto in combat enough times, you unlock those abilities as Luminas, which you can spend points on equipping permanently. So you can move on to another Picto and unlock a new bunch of abilities. The idea is that as you go through the game, you eventually amass a huge number of Lumina abilities to equip, some of which stack with and enhance not just other Lumina, but Pictos as well. This means that while you can easily get fighting and winning battles, you can spend a ton of hours really building some devastating characters. The combat itself also incorporates perhaps the most satisfying dodging and parrying system I've ever experienced. You start off by dodging attacks, aided by the rhythmic movement of your enemies telegraphing their attacks. You learn the timing and you dodge them, because dodging provides the most generous window of error. But eventually you will have to learn to parry, and this is where the juice is. I'm a hollowed out husk of a man. I feel nothing all the time. I barely notice the world. But when I hit a perfect parry in this game, and it initiates a counter-strike, it's delivered with the kind of audio-visual feedback that, well, it's very, very nice.
Incoming! Careful now.
So you're on your way, gathering Pictos and Lumina, bopping about the overworld, adding people to your party, gaining more access to more places, but the reason you're doing it all is the story and characters. Get past that prologue, and you're left with incredibly well-written, properly realised characters, with relatable motivations and backstories that make total sense. They're not all the same person, they don't all agree on everything. They have believable differences without anybody being solely correct. This shouldn't be remarkable, but across storytelling in 2025, unfortunately, it is. There are moments that make you feel warm, moments that make you feel scared, and truly heartbreaking moments of shock. I found myself invested to a degree I hadn't been in anything, be it game, movie, or TV show for a long time. And this is where I remind you again, I'm about to spoil everything, so this is your last warning. This is going to be a long bite size. It's not very bite size. This is more meal size. Probably take a little breather here. Hang on. Let me just call something up here.
I'm the genie of the lamp.
Thank goodness you're here.
Now, please don't touch me.
Sorry. How did you get here?
Well, you must have rubbed the lamp, mustn't you? Sometimes we find it doesn't take much of a rub. Sometimes just the merest touch and then whoosh.
Swapping out the main protagonist mid-game is a bold move that goes even beyond what Kojima did in Metal Gear Solid 2, and I will admit that it made me stop playing the game for a month. A whole month I spent mourning the loss of Gustav, wondering if it was worth going back. I was worried they wouldn't deal with it properly, that I wouldn't get as attached to his direct replacement, but I had no idea what they were trying to do. I was in the middle of a story, and you can't judge a story until the end. Of course, Gustav is killed in a heroic sacrifice, saving his pseudo-sister, partly as foreshadowing for what you discover about Mael and her real-life brother later, but also as another way, just like the prologue, of drawing the player into the feeling of grief that is so essential to understanding this world. This world created on a canvas by a grieving mother to try and give some kind of life to her lost son and restore some of her broken family. Without making the player feel it rather than just understand it, it would be very difficult to get them on board later on with the truly impossible nature of taking sides in the battle between the Paintress and Renoir. Needless to say, Verso becomes equally if not more compelling than Gustav, and eventually you understand that their similarities are not just for convenience, they're the direct result of the Paintress continually creating characters that reflect her own family. This is of course not the real world, but a one painted by Verso's mother in the real world as a response to the death of her son and the maiming of her daughter. As the story rolled on and I learned the truth about what the manor is, about Renoir being Verso's father, and the Paintress being Verso's mother, I began to realise that there would be a point in the game that would be even more emotionally impactful than Gustav's death, and for me, it was when you have to kill the Paintress as Verso. By this point you understand that what you're really doing is trying to break his mother free from her grief. But you also know that her grief is all she has. All she is in this world. The pain Verso feels in this moment is written and acted so perfectly that there can be no other contender for Game of the Year.
Rest now. Things will be better soon.
One of the things I find most striking about this story is how the video game medium is uniquely capable of telling it. Take the painterly aesthetic and references, for example. If you'd gone to see a live-action film that had all of this unreality in its cinematography, the clearly painted world with obvious brushstrokes, characters made up of painter's supplies, the painted backdrops in place of actual horizons, the painter's references in character and enemy names, you'd be obsessively trying to figure out what the mystery was behind it all. That's because live-action film has become entirely colonised by photorealism. All the technological advances of sound, colour and CGI are used to make things look more like the real world, or to make fantasy worlds feel more real. The concept of a haptic or impressionistic cinema was abandoned a long time ago, and it's something you only really find in obscure niche art films and shorts now. Here in games, of course, it makes you curious to a degree, but it's easier to push that stuff to the background as a stylistic choice, because games have maintained a really diverse collection of aesthetic styles. You're as likely to see a beautiful, polished 3D rendered human in the Steam charts as you are to find a simple 8-pixel block character with no face. So you can enjoy these visual flourishes without it taking too much away from your ability to become attached to the characters and get invested in the story. That's why the big reveal of the true nature of this world, when we finally understand why this art style has been used, hits so hard, because it's been hiding in plain sight the whole time. Then of course, there's the interactive element, and specifically that of choice. This isn't some simple save the kids or drown the kittens illusion of choice. This game asks something pretty fundamental and unsettling of you at the end. Do you side with Verso to save his mother in the real world by destroying the lives and existences of everything and everyone in this world that you and your friends have ever known? Or do you side with Maëlle to help her de facto mother defeat Renoir, save this world, and give everyone in it a full life, but condemning her mother to remain locked in this unreality, created by her grief, and be forever consumed by it, away from her remaining real family? Yeah, so good luck with that one. You might notice that neither of those choices is painfully obviously correct, and like all the best stories, it leaves you asking questions of yourself long after you've stopped playing. It raises issues like the power of grief in artistic creation, the value of art as a way of capturing or recreating life, our reliance on art as a replacement for human interaction, which is something that is especially topical at the moment. And it does all this while making you care deeply about the characters as individuals, not simply as avatars for different messages. You have become attached to the people in this reality, just as the paintress became attached to the characters in hers. This game is quite simply without equal.
You're tired of painting, aren't you? I'm tired too.